Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. It's a pleasure to be back with you. Hope you're having a good week so far. Here we are on Tuesday morning. And don't forget to join Two Guys in the Bible on Fulfilled Radio this evening, all right, at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock, of course, Eastern Time. Pardon me. As I promised yesterday, as we're continuing our study of the question, when was the atonement process finished? I've shared with you that in Leviticus chapter 9, it is a text that is very critical in my view of things for understanding when the Day of Atonement was completed. Now, let's make sure we know something here. Leviticus Chapter 9 is not about the Day of Atonement per se. I want everyone to understand that. So I don't want somebody, as one person's already done, because I mentioned this last week, and this individual says, oh, that's not even about the Day of Atonement. See, so you're misapplying this text. Didn't even give me the opportunity to explain. And I believe I even said Leviticus 9 is not about the Day of Atonement. But if it was true of this day, then how much more is it true of the Day of Atonement? All right? So here's what I mean. Leviticus chapter 9 is when Moses anoints and consecrates Aaron and his sons to the priesthood. The tabernacle has been built. Israel is now fully on its way, as it were. So Moses is preparing Aaron and his sons for their duties, their future duties as priests. It's remarkable that in this opening scene of the temple, if I can call it that, because like I said, it's the consecration of the temple, the priesthood, everything's at the beginning of the journey. So guess what Leviticus chapter 9, verse 7 says? Then Moses said to Aaron, come near to the altar, and offer your sin offering and your burnt offering, that you may make atonement. Wait, what? Make atonement for yourself and for the people. Then make atonement for the people, that you may make atonement for them, just as the Lord has commanded. So here at the consecration of the tabernacle, what did Aaron and his sons have to do? Offer sacrifice to make atonement for themselves and then for the people. Now, this is a precursor, ladies and gentlemen. And again, it's not the Day of Atonement, but it is the precursor and training, if I could call it that, for the Day of Atonement. Because, and I say that because, first of all, Aaron had to offer sacrifice for atonement for himself. After he had made atonement within the tent, within the tabernacle, after he had made atonement for himself, then he would make sacrifice for the people to make atonement for the people. Now, you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is a perfect picture. As I said it a moment ago, this is preparation for the Day of Atonement, for what happened on the Day of Atonement. The high priest offered sacrifice, and as Hebrews chapter 9 said, no man could enter into the most holy place except one time a year. And see, technically, he went in there more times than once, but he is using heterosis. He is saying one time when he is speaking of more than one time. It's a very common journalistic practice in the Bible. And again, it's called heterosis. It's when a singular is used to refer to a plural, or conversely, a plural could be referred or could be used to speak of a singular. And that happens in Hebrews chapter 9 as well. But to go on, okay, a little bit of a journalistic lesson there for you. But again, in Hebrews chapter 9, the writer tells us, no man could enter into the most holy place except once a year, which he did when he offered sacrifice, first for his own sins and then for the sins of the people. Do you see how he's going right back to Leviticus chapter 9 and the training for the Day of Atonement? And in verse 7, it specifically says, make atonement for yourself and then make atonement for the people. Do you suppose that Aaron's sins were atoned for the moment he killed the sacrifice? Or was it when he went in? Or was it when he came out? Pardon me. Do you suppose that he would even come out if the atonement was not accepted? Was his coming out of the holy place, or the most holy place, as it was? Do you suppose it'd even come out if the sacrifice was not accepted? Was his coming out not proof positive that the atonement was accepted? Was that not the time of rejoicing? Well, as we shall see, it most assuredly was. So in Leviticus chapter 9, at the consummation of Aaron's sacrifices for himself and then for the people, notice verse 22. Then Aaron lifted up his hands toward the people and blessed them, and he stepped down after making the sin offering and the burnt offering and the peace offering. And Moses and Aaron, this is interesting, is it not? Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting. Okay, they went into the tent of meeting after offering the sacrifice. Where was the sacrifice offered, ladies and gentlemen? Outside the tabernacle, or outside the holy place, and outside the most holy place. Where was Jesus sacrificed? Hebrews chapter 13. Even so, Christ was sacrificed outside the gate. So you're going to tell me the sacrifice, the atoning sacrifice, you're going to tell me that the atonement was completed when Jesus died outside of the most holy place? That's what some people have argued when they say the atonement was completed at the cross. Well, the cross was outside the gate. So you're telling me that the atonement was consummated outside the city, outside the temple, outside of the most holy place. You see, folks, it literally makes no sense whatsoever. So anyway, back to the text. And Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting. When they came out, they blessed the people. Now watch this. And the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Okay, in Hebrews, remember, Hebrews chapter 9, what do we find? The high priest had to enter into the most holy place to offer sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the sins of the people. Oh, pardon me. But Jesus did not have to offer sacrifice for his own sins because he had no sin. So he could go into the most holy place to offer sacrifice for the people. The high priest had to take the blood and go into the most holy place to offer the sacrifice. Jesus offered the sacrifice outside the city, but then ascended to the most holy place. Hebrews 9:24. Moses and Aaron, and on the day of atonement as well, came out of the most holy place. And when do you suppose they blessed the people? Folks, they didn't bless the people inside the most holy place. They didn't bless the people at the moment they killed the sacrifice. And then, to reiterate, they didn't bless the people when they took the sacrifice into the most holy place. They blessed the people after they came out. Now, let me ask you this question. If this was true on the day of the consecration of the temple, okay? If this was true on the day of the consecration of the priesthood, then how much more true would it be concerning Christ and his sacrifice as the ultimate atonement? Or to put this another way, if Leviticus chapter 9 is not even talking about the Day of Atonement, even though the sacrifices that day were to make atonement, but if it was true that he had to come out of the most holy place on this training day, then how much more necessary was it on the actual Day of Atonement, the most important day in Israel's calendar? This to me, I must confess, is rather astounding that anyone can do as this individual did on Facebook just the other day. And so, Preston, you're basically imagining things. Now, those are not the words he was saying, but that's the sentiment that he was trying to express. Leviticus 9 is not the Day of Atonement. Therefore, you can't make the application. So to reiterate here, ladies and gentlemen, if it was true that the high priest had to offer the sacrifice, go into the most holy place, come out of the most holy place on this day of training, then how much more so was it absolutely essential that on the Day of Atonement, he killed the sacrifice, went into the most holy place, but he had to come back out. Now let me illustrate this very quickly. I'm running out of time. In Luke chapter 1, Zacharias, the father of John the Baptizer, it was his turn to serve as a high priest. There were 24 courses of priests, and, a priest only got to serve very often one time during his entire life. There were so many priests. But nonetheless, Zacharias, it was his turn, his privilege, his honor to be able to serve. It wasn't the Day of Atonement. Okay, you need to know that. But he kills the sacrifice. He enters into the holy place, not even the most holy place. While he's in there, an angel appears to him and says, Zacharias, Elizabeth, your wife, is going to bear a child. Now, they're old. And Zacharias literally laughed, basically telling the angel, you're out of your ever-loving mind. And the angel says, well, because you laughed, okay, you're going to be deaf, or mute, until the birth of the son. But you see, all the while he's conversing with the angel, he's in there, he's talking, and the multitude is outside. And Luke tells us they were in great fear because he was spending so much time in there. They were eagerly expecting him to come out in the proper time frame. They knew from past experiences how long it should take the priest in the holy place to go through the duties of the priest. He has taken way too much time. And it says the multitude was in fear. Now remember, folks, this is not the Day of Atonement. This is not the day that is the most holy day of all of Israel's experience. This is a, quote, regular day of sacrifice. So if the crowd was in fear, for Zacharias and for the nation, on this regular day of sacrifice, it may have been a Sabbath day. They offered sacrifice of a morning. They offered sacrifices of an evening. Numbers chapter 30. Doesn't matter. Point of it is, they knew he should have come out and he hadn't, and they were in great fear. Because you see, they knew if the sacrifice was not accepted, he was going to die in there. How much more so of the Day of Atonement? And thus in Hebrews chapter 9, unto those who eagerly look for him, that depicts the multitude standing outside of the temple on the Day of Atonement. The high priest, having slain the sacrifice, having entered into the most holy place, and now the crowd is eagerly expecting him to come out. The words that are translated eagerly look is from apekdekomai. Apekdeko means an expectant, an eager looking for. It is not standing around, having conversations and, he'll come out one of these days. Yeah, don't worry about it. He'll come out one of these days. No. He has just entered in. And now you know he should be coming out. No return, no atonement. But that's not all Leviticus chapter 9 says. And we'll look at that on the flip side.